The unexpected encounter. It was just another quiet day on the small, isolated planet where Aaron, a young human, worked as a mechanic. The planet was peaceful, far from the noise and chaos of other worlds. Most of the time, Aaron would spend his days fixing old machines and keeping the equipment running for the small colony that lived there. There was nothing special about today. At least, that's what he thought at first. Aaron was working on a broken-down vehicle when he heard a loud crash. The sound echoed across the empty plains, shaking the ground beneath his feet. It wasn't the kind of noise that came from the usual storms or wildlife. This was different. Curiosity grabbed him by the throat, and he immediately left the vehicle to investigate. He didn't have to go far. Just a few 100 meters away, a strange shape lay partially buried in the ground, smoke still rising from it. At first, Aaron thought it was some sort of space debris or a damaged satellite, but as he approached, he realized it wasn't just metal. It was a ship, an alien ship, unlike anything he had ever seen before. The ship was small, sleek, with strange symbols glowing faintly along its surface. His heart raced. He had always dreamed of seeing an alien ship, but now that it was right in front of him, he didn't know what to do. Aaron hesitated, unsure of the dangers he might be walking into. But his curiosity pushed him forward, and he cautiously made his way to the wreckage. As he got closer, something caught his eye. There was movement within the wreck. Something, or someone, was alive. His hands trembled slightly as he reached the ship's damaged side. He moved a few pieces of metal away and peered inside. What he saw stunned him. A figure, hunched and weak, lay sprawled on the ground. It wasn't human. The creature was tall and thin, with greenish skin and large, dark eyes. Its face was elongated, its features unfamiliar and almost otherworldly. But there was something human-like about the way it looked at him. It seemed to be aware of his presence. The creature's lips parted, and to Aaron's surprise, it spoke. The voice was soft but clear, with a strange, melodic tone. "Human, can you do this to me from behind?" Aaron stepped back, stunned. The alien's words didn't make sense. He couldn't tell if it was a threat or a plea. He stood frozen, unsure of how to respond. The alien's eyes locked onto his, and it seemed to wait for an answer. Its body looked frail, as though it had been through something painful. "I'll be your slave for life if you help me," the alien added, its voice barely above a whisper. The words hung in the air, confusing and strange. Aaron blinked, trying to process what he had just heard. Slave for life. Help. What was this alien asking of him? He took a deep breath and stepped closer. The creature was clearly in distress, and despite its unusual appearance, it looked almost desperate. "What do you need from me?" Aaron finally asked, his voice shaky. He wasn't sure if he should trust this alien, but something about it pulled at his instincts. The desperation in its eyes made him feel like it wasn't dangerous. "I need your help to survive," the alien replied. "You don't understand, but if you don't do this, I'll die. And I can't let that happen." Aaron's mind raced. What was the alien asking? What kind of help did it need? He felt an overwhelming urge to do something, anything, to help. But at the same time, he was terrified. This wasn't something he was prepared for. The alien reached out weakly, its hand trembling. "Please, I promise I will serve you. I will be your slave. I'll do whatever you ask for the rest of my life. But I need this. You're my only hope." Aaron looked at the alien's outstretched hand, unsure of what to do. His brain screamed at him to walk away, to run back to the safety of the colony. But there was something in the alien's plea that stopped him. It was as if the creature was more than just a being from another world. It was a creature in need, and Aaron couldn't ignore that. He swallowed hard, his mind still spinning. "I don't know if I can help you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But I'll try." The alien's eyes softened, a flicker of relief crossing its face. "Thank you, human. You don't know how much this means to me." Aaron didn't know what he had gotten himself into. But in that moment, he felt like his life had just changed forever. There was a strange connection between him and the alien, one that neither of them understood yet. And whatever happened next, Aaron knew he couldn't turn back now. The creature's fate, and perhaps his own, was in his hands. The alien's plea. Aaron couldn't believe what he was hearing. His mind struggled to process everything. An alien, right here on his planet, asking for help in such a strange and mysterious way. It wasn't just the alien's unusual appearance that confused him. It was the way it spoke, its voice almost pleading, like it had nowhere else to turn. "I need your help to survive," it had said. What did that even mean? Aaron kneeled beside the alien, still unsure of what to do. The creature's skin was an unusual shade of green, almost translucent in some places. Its breathing was shallow, and it winced in pain every time it shifted slightly. Despite its weakness, there was something powerful in its gaze, a force that seemed to draw Aaron closer. He felt an odd mix of fear and curiosity, but at the same time, something deep inside him told him that he couldn't just leave it there. The alien's large, dark eyes never left him. Its expression was full of desperation, and as it spoke again, Aaron noticed a slight tremor in its voice. "I am not from this world," it said. "I come from a distant galaxy, a place far beyond the stars that you can see. My people, they are no more. I am the last of my kind." Aaron felt a chill run down his spine. The alien was alone, entirely alone in the vastness of space. That thought was both heartbreaking and terrifying. "What happened to your people?" Aaron asked quietly, feeling a sense of sorrow for the creature. The alien seemed to hesitate, its eyes shifting away for a moment. It was as if the question brought back painful memories. "We were wiped out," it said, its voice cracking slightly, "by a force beyond our control. A race of beings who took everything we had. Our home, our families, our lives. They left me alive, but only because they knew I could be used for something else. Something terrible." Aaron frowned, confusion mixing with sympathy. "What do you mean used for something terrible? What do you need from me?" The alien's gaze softened as it looked back at Aaron. It seemed to gather what little strength it had left before answering. "My species, we are bound by an ancient rule. We must serve another being in exchange for our survival. A life debt, if you will. If someone helps us, we must pledge our loyalty and obedience to them forever. But there is a way to break the curse. If I find someone willing to help me, truly help me in the way I need, the bond will be broken. I can be free." Aaron's mind raced. A life debt. A curse. This sounded like something straight out of a storybook, something impossible. But the alien was clearly serious, and its words felt heavy with truth. "So, if I help you, you'll be free?" "Yes," the alien said, its voice quiet but determined. "But it is not that simple. The curse can only be broken by someone strong enough to fulfill the bond. Someone who understands what it means to give everything for the other. Only then can I be free. You are that person. I can feel it." Aaron stared at the alien, unsure of how to respond. It was too much for him to take in all at once. He had only ever dealt with machines, never anything like this. He didn't know the first thing about breaking curses or life debts. But somehow, in the alien's voice, in its eyes, he felt something stirring inside him. A deep, hidden desire to help. He couldn't explain it. It wasn't just pity or sympathy. It was something stronger. "Okay," Aaron said, surprising himself. "I'll help you. I don't understand everything you're saying, but I'll try. What do I need to do?" The alien's eyes widened in what almost looked like relief. "Thank you, human. You don't know how much this means to me. To us." The alien paused, its body weakening again. It let out a soft sigh, as though the effort of speaking was draining it. But there is something you must understand. The process is dangerous. You might feel pain. You might even feel betrayed. It will test you, Aaron. It will test your very soul." Aaron nodded, though he didn't fully understand what the alien meant. Pain. Betrayal. He was already feeling both, just from the words that had been spoken. Still, something told him that he had to continue, that he couldn't stop now. He was in this deeper than he realized. The alien shifted slightly, then extended its hand toward Aaron again, this time with more strength. "I promise, once this is done, we will both be free. No one will ever be able to control us again. Not them. And not anyone else." Aaron looked down at the alien's hand, its skin so different from his own. There was something strange and almost magical about the way it glowed in the dim light, like it was waiting for him to accept it. He took a deep breath, then gently reached out and grasped the alien's hand. The moment their hands touched, something strange happened. A surge of energy rushed through him, more powerful than anything Aaron had ever felt before. It was like every cell in his body was suddenly alive, as if the universe itself had just turned its gaze upon him. He gasped, pulling his hand back as a sharp pain shot through his arm. It wasn't like any pain he had ever felt. It wasn't physical. It was emotional, a deep sense of loss, of being tethered to something beyond his control. But the pain quickly faded, leaving behind a strange warmth that seemed to settle in his chest. The alien smiled weakly, its face lighting up with gratitude. "Thank you, Aaron. You've begun the process. From now on, we are bound together, for better or worse." Aaron stared at the alien, still trying to understand what had just happened. His mind was spinning with questions, and yet, deep down, he knew there was no going back. He had made a choice, and his life would never be the same again. But was he ready for what was to come? The transformation. Aaron sat beside the alien, his thoughts swirling in confusion and disbelief. The moment his hand had touched the alien's, something had shifted inside him. It wasn't just the strange energy he had felt. It was more than that. There was a feeling, deep within his chest, as if a part of him had awakened. He didn't know how to describe it, but it was undeniable. The alien, he still hadn't learned its name, lay still, its breathing slow but steady. For a moment, everything seemed calm, like the world had paused to let him catch his breath. But Aaron knew it wasn't over. He had made a choice, and now there was no going back. The alien was depending on him, and he couldn't just walk away. As he looked down at the creature, still lying weakly in front of him, something started to change. The alien's skin, once a dull, almost translucent green, began to glow faintly. The soft, bluish hue of the light was barely noticeable at first, but as seconds passed, it grew brighter. The air around Aaron seemed to hum with energy, and he could feel the pull of it. The alien's eyes fluttered open, and for a moment, it looked directly at him with a deep, intense gaze. Its dark eyes were almost hypnotic, filled with an emotion Aaron couldn't quite place. It wasn't just gratitude, it was something deeper, something ancient. "I told you," the alien said weakly, its voice a little stronger now. "The bond. It has begun. You will feel it too. You will start to change." Aaron blinked, unsure of what the alien meant. "Change." He repeated, "What do you mean? What's happening to us?" The alien's expression became more serious, its eyes narrowing as if it were trying to focus on something only it could see. "This process isn't just about saving me. It's about both of us. You've accepted the bond, and now you must understand that it is a two-way street. As I heal, so will you, but it's not just physical healing. Your body will change, Aaron. You will begin to feel stronger. But it's not just strength that you'll gain. It's power. Power that you can't yet comprehend." Aaron's heart raced. Power. He wasn't sure he wanted any part of that. He had never thought of himself as someone who needed power. He was just a mechanic, someone who liked to fix things, not someone who was meant to wield great strength or abilities. "Why me?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Why did you choose me? I don't know anything about this kind of stuff. I'm just a normal guy." The alien's eyes softened. "Because you are not like the others. You have something inside you, a strength that comes from your very nature. It's in the human spirit. It is why your species has survived so long, why you've conquered challenges that would have broken other races. I felt it when I first saw you. You are capable of much more than you know, Aaron." A strange mix of emotions flooded Aaron's chest. He felt flattered, scared, and confused all at once. But before he could say anything else, the alien's body shuddered. The glowing light that had started around it now intensified, spreading across its limbs, its torso, and even its face. The alien's skin, once so fragile-looking, was beginning to firm up, becoming smoother and more solid. It was as if the light was healing not just the alien's physical wounds, but something deeper inside it, something Aaron didn't understand. And then something even stranger happened. The air around them seemed to thicken, and Aaron's heart skipped a beat. He felt a sudden surge of energy within himself. It was like a current was flowing through his body, and for a moment, he couldn't breathe. His chest tightened as a wave of power seemed to rise from his very core. His hands trembled, and his vision blurred for a second. "Aaron," the alien said urgently, its voice still strained but full of warning. "You must stay calm. The bond is not just a physical change. It will challenge you. The power you feel, it is a gift, but it will also test you. You cannot allow it to control you." Aaron gasped for air, trying to steady himself. He felt stronger than ever, but the feeling was overwhelming, almost suffocating. His muscles twitched, his mind raced, and he could hear the blood rushing in his ears. He wanted to shake it off, but there was no escaping it. The power was inside him now, mingling with his very being. As quickly as it had come, the sensation began to fade, but the change was undeniable. Aaron could feel his body humming with an unfamiliar energy. His senses seemed sharper, his mind clearer. It was as though he could feel every molecule of air around him, hear the tiniest rustle of leaves in the distance, and even sense the alien's heartbeat beside him. The alien, now fully healed, looked at him with a mixture of awe and caution. "This is just the beginning, Aaron. You've crossed into something you cannot undo. The power you have now, it will change the course of everything. But it will not be easy. There are forces out there, powerful beings who will stop at nothing to control what you have. They will come for you." Aaron didn't know what to say. The alien's words hung in the air like a dark cloud, and the weight of what he had just experienced seemed to settle over him. He had been given something extraordinary, something no human had ever known. But at what cost? And how would he ever be able to handle it? The alien rose to its feet, its movements now fluid and graceful. It looked down at Aaron, who was still trying to regain his breath. "You must prepare yourself, Aaron. The world you knew is gone, and the journey we are about to take will be filled with danger." Aaron looked at the alien, unsure of what to think. It was as if everything he had known had been ripped away in an instant, leaving him standing at the edge of something unknown. But one thing was clear: whatever happened next, he couldn't go back. He was in this now, whether he liked it or not. The alien's eyes met his, and for the first time, Aaron saw something that wasn't just desperation. There was hope. Hope that this strange connection between them could bring something better. And maybe, just maybe, Aaron would discover the truth about the power he now held, and the terrible forces that would try to take it from him. A bond forms. The days following the alien's transformation were a blur for Aaron. It was hard to describe what was happening to him. He had felt a deep, almost unsettling shift in his body and mind ever since that first moment when the alien's power had coursed through him. Every part of him was more alive than ever, his senses sharper, his strength greater. He could feel the hum of energy running just beneath his skin, And sometimes, in the quiet moments, he could even sense the aliens' thoughts, as if their minds were connected in some way. At first, Aaron tried to resist it. He didn't want to think about what this bond meant. It scared him. But over time, he couldn't ignore the truth. There was no going back. The alien had been right. The power was changing him, and he was changing the alien as well. The creature, who still hadn't given him a name, had become more human in appearance. It wasn't just the physical changes. Its emotions were becoming more visible, more relatable. The alien now spoke in a way that made Aaron feel as though they were sharing the same world, the same experience. The distance between them had shrunk, and Aaron began to realize that this connection was not just about helping the alien. It was about something deeper. Each night, as the two of them sat together, the alien would explain more about its past, its people, and the reason for its existence. Aaron learned that the aliens' race, once a proud and advanced civilization, had been nearly destroyed by a ruthless enemy. The creatures who had wiped out the aliens' people were known as the Shakhar, a race of conquerors who had roamed the galaxy, enslaving entire species and leaving destruction in their wake. The alien, who Aaron had come to think of as Zara in his mind, though it still hadn't told him its true name, had managed to escape. It had been alone for years, drifting through space in search of someone who could help break the curse that bound its kind to servitude. Zara had wandered, hoping for a savior, and when it found Aaron, it felt as if fate had finally stepped in. But as Zara continued to share the story, Aaron could sense that there was more to the tale than the alien was letting on. Zara spoke of the Shakhar with a mixture of hatred and fear, but Aaron couldn't shake the feeling that there was something Zara wasn't telling him, a deeper, darker secret about its race and the curse it had described. The bond between them had deepened, but so had the mystery. One evening, as the two of them sat in the dimly lit shelter that Aaron had built for them, Zara turned to him, its eyes flashing with an intensity that made Aaron uneasy. "There is something you must understand," Zara said, its voice low and serious. "The Shakhar, they are not just a race of conquerors. They are more than that. They are hunters, and they are coming for me." Aaron frowned, feeling a chill crawl down his spine. "Coming for you? Why? What do they want with you?" Zara hesitated, its gaze distant, as if lost in the past. "I was once a part of their army. I was one of them. But I escaped, and in doing so, I betrayed them. The Shakhar do not forgive betrayal. They never have, and they will stop at nothing to track me down." The revelation hit Aaron like a punch to the gut. Zara, the alien he had been helping, had been a part of the very force that had destroyed its own people. How could that be? Zara seemed to sense his confusion and quickly added, "I did not want to be a part of them. I was forced. The bond I spoke of, it is a curse, not a blessing. It binds us to their will, and once you are bound, there is no escaping it." Aaron's head spun with all the new information. He had trusted Zara, but now it seemed as if the alien had been hiding something from him all along. Zara had been a part of the enemy. It had been one of the very beings that had caused so much destruction in the galaxy. Aaron couldn't help but feel betrayed. How could he continue helping someone who had been part of the force that had brought so much pain to so many? But then he saw the look in Zara's eyes, something that made him pause. It wasn't just guilt. It was fear. Fear of the Shakhar. Fear of the price that had been paid for freedom. Zara had been running for years, and it had never known peace. "I did what I had to do," Zara said, its voice barely a whisper. "And now I have to face the consequences. But I can't do it alone, Aaron. I can't fight them on my own. Not without you. You are my only chance to break the bond." Aaron's mind was a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, betrayal, confusion. But in that moment, he realized something. Zara wasn't the enemy. The Shakhar were. The real enemy had been lurking in the shadows all along, and Zara had been a victim of it, just as much as the aliens' people had been. "I'll help you," Aaron said, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside him. "Whatever it takes, we'll face the Shakar together." Zora's eyes softened, and for the first time, Aaron saw a glimmer of hope in them, a hope that hadn't been there before. It wasn't just the bond that connected them now. It was trust. Trust that had taken time to build, but it was strong. "Thank you," Zora whispered. "You don't know what this means to me." The two of them sat in silence for a long while, the weight of what had just been revealed settling over them both. The road ahead would not be easy. They were about to face an enemy that was ruthless and relentless, an enemy that had destroyed Zora's people and hunted Zora itself for years. But Aaron knew that he couldn't back down. Not now. And as he sat there, side by side with Zora, he felt the bond between them grow stronger, stronger than any curse, stronger than any enemy. The journey ahead would test them both, but together, they would stand a chance. The Shakar were coming, but Aaron and Zora would be ready. The first battle. The days following Zora's revelation were tense. The air around Aaron and the alien had shifted from one of uncertainty to a kind of focused dread. They both knew what was coming. The Shakar were on their way, and there was no escaping the inevitable confrontation. Aaron's mind couldn't stop racing. One moment, he was trying to understand the strange bond that tied him to Zora, and the next, he was preparing for a battle that could change everything. The planet they were on was isolated, a remote world with little in the way of resources or strategic value. But that varied isolation made it a perfect place for the Shakar to track them down. Aaron couldn't shake the feeling that the enemy was already here, watching them from the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. Zora had spent the last few days teaching Aaron how to harness the new power within him. It wasn't easy. Every time Aaron tried to control it, the power surged within him, overwhelming him. At first, he had thought that the power was something he could wield like a weapon, direct and controlled. But Zora had warned him. The power was not just something to be used. It was something that had to be understood, something that had to be accepted. "You're not just using the power, Aaron," Zora had told him one night as they sat by a fire. "You are becoming one with it. You're tapping into the energy of the universe itself. And that's why you must learn to control your emotions. The power is a reflection of your thoughts, your will. If you let it consume you, it will destroy you." Aaron's frustration grew with every lesson. He could feel the power within him, pulsing like a second heartbeat, but he couldn't control it. It was as if every time he tried to push it into submission, it pushed back harder. "You're not listening," Zora had said one evening after Aaron nearly lost control during a training session. "It's not about fighting it. It's about embracing it. Trust yourself, Aaron. You can do this." The alien's words had hit him hard. It wasn't just about winning a fight. It was about understanding himself, trusting in what he had become. And deep down, Aaron realized that Zora wasn't just talking about the power within him. She was talking about the bond they shared, the connection that had formed between them over the past few days. Trust. Understanding. Those were the real keys to the battle they were about to face. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the shadows of the alien landscape stretched long and dark, Zora's warning came true. They had set up a perimeter, using the sparse resources around them to create a defensive line. Zora was on edge, her senses sharper than Aaron's. She could feel the approaching threat before it was visible. "We need to move," Zora whispered urgently, her voice low but filled with purpose. "They're here." Aaron's heart raced as he followed Zora's lead. They moved quickly, silently, through the dense forest of strange trees that surrounded their camp. The planet was eerily quiet, the only sound being the soft crunch of their footsteps on the underbrush. Every instinct in Aaron's body screamed that danger was near, that the Shakar were watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. And then, from the shadows, they came. A group of Shakar soldiers emerged from the darkness, their black armor reflecting the pale light of the twin moons above. They were tall, imposing figures, their faces obscured by helmets that seemed to shimmer with an unnatural glow. The air around them crackled with energy, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to tremble as if reacting to their presence. Aaron's breath caught in his throat as he stared at the Shakar soldiers. There were at least 10 of them, and they were armed with weapons that hummed with a menacing energy. The soldiers didn't speak, but their presence alone was enough to send a wave of fear through Aaron's body. Zara stepped forward, her posture straight, her eyes narrowed in focus. "You know why we're here," she said, her voice firm but calm. "You won't take me without a fight." The Shakar soldiers didn't respond immediately. Instead, they raised their weapons, their stance shifting into a combat-ready formation. Aaron could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. This was it, the moment he had been dreading, the moment that would test everything he had learned and everything he had become. Without warning, one of the Shakar soldiers lunged toward them, its weapon crackling with energy. Zara reacted instantly, her movements fluid and graceful as she dodged the attack. She raised her hand, and a wave of energy shot out, knocking the soldier back several feet. The soldier stumbled, but it quickly regained its footing, its eyes locked onto Zara with fury. Aaron watched, stunned. Zara was a force to be reckoned with. The way she moved, the power she controlled, it was as if she were an extension of the universe itself, able to bend the very fabric of reality to her will. But even as Aaron admired her strength, he knew that there were too many of the Shakar. Zara couldn't hold them off forever. As if reading his thoughts, Zara turned to him, her eyes fierce. "This is your fight too, Aaron. You have the power. Use it." Aaron's heart pounded in his chest. His mind raced, but there was no time to think. He reached down deep within himself, searching for the power that had been growing inside him ever since he had touched Zara's hand. The energy swirled around him, warm and overwhelming. This time, instead of resisting it, he allowed it to rise, to surge through his body. He could feel it, pulsing beneath his skin, a tidal wave of raw, untamed force. His hands crackled with energy as he raised them toward the incoming Shakar soldier. Time seemed to slow as the power flowed through him. With a shout, Aaron released the energy in a burst that lit up the night sky. The soldier was thrown backward, crashing into the trees with a deafening crash. Aaron gasped, feeling the power drain from him. But as the soldier lay motionless, Aaron realized something. He had done it. He had used the power, and it had worked. But there was no time to celebrate. The remaining soldiers were closing in. Zara was already in the thick of the fight, her body moving with terrifying speed and precision. The Shakar soldiers were relentless, but with each attack, Aaron could feel himself growing stronger. The energy inside him didn't just fade. It built upon itself, becoming more familiar, more controllable. This was just the beginning. The first battle, and it wouldn't be the last. Secrets unveiled. The dust from the battle still hung in the air, thick and heavy. The night was eerily quiet now, with only the distant sounds of the jungle filling the silence. The Shakar soldiers lay scattered around them, their bodies still, some in pieces, others merely unconscious but breathing. Aaron stood, panting, his chest heaving from the exertion of the fight. The energy that had surged through him in those brief moments felt like it was fading, leaving behind a strange emptiness, a hunger for more, a thirst for power he didn't yet understand. Zara, on the other hand, moved with practiced ease. She had dispatched several of the Shakar soldiers with terrifying precision, but now, as she stood among the fallen, her face was somber, her gaze distant. Aaron watched her, noticing the faint flicker of something hidden in her eyes, something dark, something painful. The battle had ended, but the weight of it still hung over them. Aaron wasn't sure what to feel. Victory, fear, or something else entirely. He had seen Zara fight, had felt the power flow through him, but even as they stood victorious, the tension between them felt heavier than before. Zara had never fully explained why the Shakar were after her or what had really happened to her people. But now, in the quiet aftermath of the battle, Aaron realized that the time for secrets was over. Zara turned to him, her expression unreadable. "We need to talk," she said quietly, her voice betraying none of the anger or fear she had shown in battle. This was something else, something deeper, something she had been hiding. Aaron nodded, his mind still racing from the fight. "Yeah, I think it's time." They walked to a nearby clearing, away from the wreckage and the bodies of the fallen soldiers. The moonlight filtered through the strange trees, casting long shadows across the ground. Zara seemed lost in thought, her eyes cast downward as if struggling with the weight of what she was about to reveal. "I've never told you the full truth," she began, her voice steady but distant. "Not because I didn't trust you, but because I didn't think you were ready to hear it. And to be honest, I wasn't ready to say it aloud." Aaron stayed silent, waiting for her to continue. The tension between them was thick now, like the air had become heavy with unsaid words. "I wasn't always like this," Zara said, her voice softer now. "I wasn't always the last of my people. I wasn't always hunted." She paused, as if weighing her words carefully. "I was once one of the Shakar." Aaron's breath caught in his chest. The words hit him harder than any blow he had taken during the battle. Zara, the alien he had come to trust, had been a part of the very enemy they were fighting against. She had been one of them. Zara seemed to sense his shock. "I know it's hard to believe. It's hard for me to say. But the truth is, I didn't have a choice. The Shakar, they control everything. They enslave races. They wipe out entire civilizations. They have the power to force anyone into their service. And that's exactly what happened to me." She turned away, looking out into the distance as if trying to escape the memories. "I was born into their ranks, raised to fight for them. They took my people, and they twisted us into weapons. But deep down, I always knew that it wasn't right. I wasn't like the others. I didn't believe in what they were doing." Aaron swallowed, his mind reeling. It wasn't just that Zara had been one of the enemy. It was the fact that she had been a victim too, forced into a life she hadn't chosen. He could see it now, the pain in her eyes, the weight of the years of torment she had endured. "So why did you leave?" Aaron asked, his voice gentle but filled with curiosity. "Why run? Why betray them?" Zara's eyes darkened, her jaw tightening as if the question stung her. "Because I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't stand what they were doing. The things they made me do. The people I killed. The destruction I helped cause." She shook her head slowly, as if the memories were too painful to bear. "I escaped one night, under the cover of darkness. I fled from the Shakar. But they don't let anyone go. Not like that. Not without consequences." Aaron stepped closer, his heart heavy with sympathy for her. "And that's why they're chasing you." Zara nodded. "They'll never stop hunting me. I betrayed them. And for the Shakar, betrayal is unforgivable. I've been running ever since, hiding in the shadows, hoping I could find a way to break the curse. But every time I think I'm free, they find me. They always find me." Aaron's mind raced as the pieces began to fall into place. Zara had been a part of the force that had destroyed her people, but she had also been a victim. She had been forced into service, turned into a weapon. And now, the Shakar were coming for her again. But there was something else, something Aaron couldn't ignore. The power he had gained, the power that connected him to Zara. There was a reason for it. The energy wasn't just a random gift. It was part of something bigger, something tied to Zara's past, to the very curse that bound her. "Is that why you need me?" Aaron asked, his voice steady but filled with uncertainty. "Is that why you've been asking for my help? Because you think I can break the curse?" Zara met his gaze, and for the first time, Aaron saw the full weight of the burden she carried. "Yes, I need your help, Aaron. Not just to fight the Shakar, but to destroy them. To break the curse that they've put on my people. The power you've been feeling, The power we share, it's not just yours. It's mine too. And together, we can break the bond that binds us to them. But it won't be easy. The Shakar won't just let us walk away. They'll fight until the very end. Aaron's heart raced, but this time, it was different. He wasn't afraid anymore. He understood now. Zara wasn't just a survivor. She was a fighter, a warrior who had been broken by her past, but who had the strength to rebuild herself, to fight for freedom. And together, they had the power to make sure the Shakar would never hurt anyone again. "We'll do it," Aaron said, his voice firm. "We'll fight them together, and we'll make sure they never hurt anyone again." Zara smiled, a faint glimmer of hope returning to her eyes. "Thank you, Aaron. I knew you were the one I could trust." The two of them stood together in the quiet night, the stars above them reflecting the weight of the journey ahead. The battle was far from over. But for the first time, Aaron felt as if they had a real chance to win. And whatever the cost, they would face it together. The final choice. The quiet after the storm seemed impossible. After days of running, of battles fought in the shadows, Aaron and Zara had found themselves standing at the edge of the world, both physically and emotionally. The Shakar were coming, but this time, Aaron didn't feel the fear he once had. Something had changed in him. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore. He wasn't just a human trying to survive. He was something more. And Zara, the alien who had once been his enemy, had now become his ally. She had shown him strength, vulnerability, and the most unexpected thing, hope. The bond between them was no longer a curse. It was a connection, one that transcended the boundaries of species, of life and death. It was something neither of them could escape, but for the first time, it felt like something worth fighting for. The two of them stood side by side, looking out across the alien landscape. The jungle stretched before them, its dense foliage hiding whatever danger lay beyond. But Aaron wasn't focused on the jungle anymore. He was focused on the future that had once seemed so uncertain, but now felt like something within his reach. He was ready. "Are you ready?" Zara's voice was low but steady, the same calm that had helped Aaron find his resolve during the darkest moments of their journey. Aaron didn't answer right away. He looked at her, seeing the same uncertainty mirrored in her eyes. There was no more pretending that they had everything figured out. Zara had never had the luxury of a clear path ahead, and neither did Aaron. But this was their choice, their future. "We've come this far," Aaron finally said, his voice firm. "We're not backing down now." Zara nodded, her eyes hardening with determination. "The Shakar are ruthless. They'll stop at nothing to make sure I don't break free. But this time, we'll be the ones who stop them." Aaron felt a shiver run down his spine as he thought about the Shakar, those monstrous conquerors who had once enslaved Zara and who now hunted her relentlessly. They weren't just enemies. They were predators, cold and merciless. And they would come for Zara, and for him. The final confrontation loomed. The air seemed to crackle with the tension of what was about to unfold. Aaron could hear the faint hum of the alien energy that thrummed through his body, an energy that had grown stronger with every battle. It was as if the universe itself had chosen him to stand with Zara in this final fight. But even as he embraced the power, he knew there was more at stake than just defeating the Shakar. Zara turned toward him, her gaze softer now, her voice tinged with a deep sadness. "I've lived so long running from them, Aaron. I've been fighting to survive, to escape, but I've never truly had a chance to live. I'm not just asking you to help me fight. I'm asking you to help me build something after this. A future, not just for us, but for everyone who's ever been oppressed by the Shakar." Aaron met her eyes, understanding the weight of her words. They weren't just fighting for their own lives anymore. They were fighting for something bigger, for freedom, for the possibility of peace. "I don't know what happens after this," Aaron admitted, his voice steady. "But I do know that I'm not walking away. Not now." Zara smiled, a rare expression of genuine warmth. "We fight together then." The ground began to tremble beneath their feet. A low rumble, like the approaching footsteps of giants, echoed through the jungle. The Shakar were here. Aaron's heart raced, but this time it wasn't out of fear. It was out of focus of readiness. He was prepared to face whatever came next. Together, they would stand. Together, they would fight. The Shakar emerged from the jungle in waves. The air grew thick with the tension of impending battle, the weight of countless lives resting on the edge of this moment. The Shakar soldiers were relentless, their dark, armor-clad forms advancing without hesitation, their weapons crackling with violent energy. Zara stepped forward, her posture perfect, her body alive with the power that she had learned to harness over the years. She raised her hand, sending a wave of energy toward the first wave of Shakar soldiers. The blast hit its mark, sending soldiers flying, their bodies crumpling to the ground with a sickening thud. But more kept coming. The Shakar were endless, their numbers overwhelming. And yet, with each fallen soldier, Aaron could feel the power inside him growing. He had come to understand it, to embrace it. He wasn't just fighting for his life. He was fighting for the future they could build together. Zara fought beside him, her movements fluid and graceful. She wasn't just defending herself. She was using the Shakar's power against them, her energy manipulating the very air around her. The bond between them felt stronger now, the connection growing with each strike, each wave of power that surged through their bodies. Aaron felt it too. The bond that had once been foreign now felt like a second skin. He could feel Zara's thoughts, her emotions, as if they were his own. He could sense the ebb and flow of their energy, a perfect synchronization of power. But despite their combined strength, the Shakar weren't retreating. They were relentless, pushing forward, determined to take down Zara once and for all. Aaron felt a wave of doubt creep into his mind. Would they really make it out of this alive? Were they strong enough? Then, in the midst of the chaos, Zara's voice cut through the noise. "We have to finish this, Aaron. Now." Aaron nodded, and for the first time, he understood what she meant. The final move wasn't about defeating the Shakar in battle. It was about breaking the curse that had bound them all for so long. It was about severing the ties that had kept them in darkness. The air around them began to shimmer with energy, the very earth vibrating beneath their feet. The Shakar soldiers paused, confusion spreading among them as they realized the power of the bond that had formed between Aaron and Zara. With one final, unified push, Aaron and Zara combined their power, sending a wave of energy that enveloped the battlefield. The sky lit up with blinding light, and the ground trembled as the curse that had bound them shattered. The Shakar fell to their knees, their power broken, their hold over Zara and Aaron finally severed. The darkness that had clouded the land seemed to lift, and for the first time in what felt like forever, there was peace. The battle was over. Aaron stood beside Zara, both of them breathing heavily, their bodies exhausted from the fight. But as the last of the Shakar soldiers fell, a sense of relief washed over them. "We did it," Zara whispered, her voice filled with awe. Aaron turned to her, his heart swelling with something he couldn't quite name. "We did." But as the light of the battle began to fade, the reality of the choice they had made set in. Zara was free. But what about Aaron? What would life look like for him now? And what about the bond they shared? Zara looked at him, her eyes soft and filled with gratitude. "You've given me a chance at life, Aaron. But the choice, it's still yours. Will you walk with me? Will you stand by my side as we rebuild, as we create something new?" Aaron looked at her, the weight of the question hanging between them. The future was uncertain, but he knew one thing for sure. He was no longer the person he had been when this journey began. He had found something greater than himself, something worth fighting for. "I'm with you," Aaron said, his voice steady, "wherever this journey takes us." Together, they turned toward the horizon, the sun rising on a new world, one where they would build a future not just for themselves, but for everyone who had ever been oppressed by the Shakar. The battle had been won, but their real journey was just beginning.